Live. I am live. Hey, everybody. It's 3:22. I'm not going to go late, I don't think. Well, we'll see how it goes. But I just finished my call, and I, I'm not going to regurgitate everything because I have to process it. And um, I have to, nothing I was given was material information. uh, non-public information. However, I have to use my discretion because even having said that, probably some of the information, is not meant for me to um, share out over the airwaves. But my gosh, you guys own an incredible stock. You really own an incredible stock. You don't even know what you have. Um, and you probably won't learn it from me because I don't fully understand all the technology. But I don't know. I'll just go through some reactions. One is, and I didn't get a chance to ask all the questions because I tried to listen more than interrupt. Although I did my fair share of interrupting, um, it just there was just no way um, I was going to get more time. I got 2 hours of time, which is amazing. But he told me I could use everything uh, with discretion. The last trade, 200 shares, 27.43. What a nightmare. Uh, that's $60 worth of stock. Unbelievable. But the bid actually has come up in the 27 cents range. So maybe we've seen the worst of it. This stock isn't going to stay this cheap for very long. What's clear to me is um, people don't know the story. And as the story comes out, you're not going to be able to catch what comes in terms of the stock price. I think I think sorry, my anyway, I won't complain. I've just been sitting here for a while. It's actually trading pretty nicely. Uh, Not up a lot, of course, just green. They'll try to print it down. Finger is down 0.025, 146. GDC's back to 528, but that's higher than it's been recently. It's up 2 cents. Uh, um, But anyway, Railtown's having itself a pretty big day. So let me just go through the questions that I wrote down. I did not ask these questions like, let me go down my list, but I'll just go through them and see if I got the answer. No toxic financing. It's clear that he doesn't want to do anything from American investment groups. They call up, and they have he thinks there's a certain aspect of these banks that are a little sketchy, so he's not going to do anything there. So my opinion is no, is the answer. They will not do a toxic financing. I wrote down, somebody asked me, are they going to be their own company or are they going to be bought out? I think time will tell, of course, the way I wrote it down. And I did ask him at one point, are you going to be a unicorn or are you going to be bought out? And sorry for yawning. I think his just processing what he said to me, I think it's really not in his control what happens. So the way I translate it, they're not going to be a unicorn. They eventually, and I'm trying to think, saying eventually, I still think it's going to be fairly quickly. They won't be able to control who offers the company a buy. We want to buy your company. And he did say if he receives offers, he'll put it out to shareholders. So I think the path is toward a buyout. It was interesting. I think I got a little snag there. It was interesting. I tried to get him to ridicule my large targets for buyout, and he didn't do that. But on the other hand, he didn't give me a sense that he has a price in mind per se. So I guess that'll just play out. Somebody asked me, does Conductor have clients? And does Conductor have a pipeline to be revealed in 2026? What I was amazed listening to him, and I can go through some of the history there. I don't think I wrote it all down clearly, and things will come to my memory. I was trying to listen. But what's amazing to me is while they were developing their tools, he was thinking 2 or 3 steps ahead. And one is the relationship with Microsoft, although that's not their only relationship. And then 2 was the TELUS tie-up. That didn't just happen by chance. That was strategy. So somebody asked me, is the TELUS, can they take that to other uh, data centers. And I have to give two answers. Number one, TELUS has built those two data centers. They may build two more, but they are state of the art. They're NVIDIA. They have nearly, I wouldn't say unlimited capacity, but what Railtown is trying to do will not be constrained by those two data centers. They can handle everything they bring. And so, in that sense, they don't need to expand. But in the other sense, uh, what he got across, sorry, he kept using the car make automobile manufacturers. I've used the brokerage houses. When I first started in the business, there were, I trained at arguably the best training on the street when I started, although eventually other, the panache of a Goldman Sachs or something clearly started to take over. But I trained at Merrill Lynch, which at the time was number one. But the market was not, the market was under $1,000. It's now what, 48,000, and there's plenty of room. When I first when I left Merrill, one of the things that bothered me so much was, Merrill was like a womb. They had great research. It felt like they had advertising, a lot of support. But my manager at the new place where I was, I was president's club and all that, big shot. He just pointed out, well, let them advertise. It helps you here. Let them build the market because it's going to help here. In other words, the market is so big, plenty of room for everybody. And this research, by the way, completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant. This research is out of date. So I'm going to stop referring to it. So I tried to nail down is, for example, is LangChain a competitor? And it's really not. It is and it isn't. But even if they achieve what they're trying to do, Railtown's going to be huge. Railtown did not lose any time in the, to you and I, we think it was a delay. But it really wasn't a delay. It just took a while to get that deal done. But we're still in this period where there's more information to come out. And he didn't talk about that, by the way. So did it really delay us? Probably not. Somebody asked me, what's the profitability of each offering, each of the tools? And would you believe it probably doesn't matter? I never got to ask that question directly, but what's in front of you is tools. See, I wish I could have taken a picture of it. He showed me a different presentation, but and I'm not going to get it right, but I'll try to do my best. These guys are good, by the way. They're really good. This is going to be quite frustrating for me because it's like speaking French. So basically, he showed me this chart, and the users of AI are up here. These are the users. But at the bottom, you have the electricity, is what he kept calling it, the hyperscalers, the data centers. And everybody, you need this. He calls it AI for everyone. It's to create tools, agentic tools. This is what you need. You need the NVIDIA, the GPUs, the power, the processing, the compute. This is the electricity, he said. And then you need the large language models. And the examples he gave here were OpenAI, Anthropic, and Cohere. But you need the large language models to put together all of this. You have all this data stored. That's my word. He didn't say that. But he said the large language models are like your brain. If I say to you, Donald Trump, all sorts of things come to your head. He used the example of Paul Newman. And I immediately remembered, for one Christmas when we were teenagers, I bought a T-shirt as a Christmas present for my sister with Paul Newman on it. I had to have it made specially. And out of all her gifts, that's the one she just swooned over. And that popped into my head. It popped into my head that the woman at the credit union, the State Department credit union, loved my father and once told him he looked like Paul Newman. And my dad that just made my dad's day to imagine he looked like Paul Newman. And then I thought about Norm Macdonald's joke that, have you ever noticed that Gary Oldman is a young man, and Henry Youngman is an old man? And then he said, have you noticed that Paul Newman is not a Newman? He's an old man? So I thought of that. I thought of his movies, thought of his charities. But that's what he was trying to get me to do. He said, our brains, you get a reference point, and our neural connections go all over the place. And I said, yeah, but the difference is we prioritize those. If you're asking me about Paul Newman, I have all these things flashing through, but I'm going to try to isolate on one, like he's dead, that might be relevant to why you brought his name up. He said, that's what the top is for, orchestration frameworks. So the user creates agentic tools, and this is the electricity. This is all, I guess, the data, all the neural connections. But it's these frameworks that make it work, kind of like your brain does. It's kind of the consciousness. And he's I don't know if he's my age. He could be older than I am, but he could be, I mean, he could be much younger. But he got his start in prior, or as the personal computer came to the forefront. And he was explaining how he started writing code back then. He's been all the way up through it. And he said, what did the computer, the personal computer market do? He said there were others, but basically it created Microsoft and Apple. And there's others, but Microsoft and Apple. It became huge during the computer software run. But then the internet came, which was tied to the personal computer. The internet came, and it made a dozen companies. It made several that you can quickly remember: Amazon, Facebook. That's all I can remember right now. But it made a handful of companies huge. The internet and others. Well, now we're going into AI for everyone, is what he called it. It's what James Altucher calls AI 2.0. But what was interesting, what stood out to me, which even an idiot like myself can get, he said that essentially all of that software has to be replaced. He didn't say that. That's how I heard it. All the software that's been developed is going to be replaced with agentic software, agentic tools. So what he said is, from the beginning of the PC, developers created software development kits. That's what they called them, SDKs. But now all of that is going to be replaced with the agentic development kits. And it's hundreds of billions, trillions of dollars. And it's just going to come. It's all going to be AI software going forward. It's amazing. He did say, which was really interesting, when they were developing their company, People didn't understand it. And that's what I was trying to explain to you is it was kind of this year. Awareness wasn't there. And um, I wrote down the aha moment, the world's aha moment. He didn't call it that, but he said that it was when ChatGPT came out. That's when everybody suddenly understood what he was doing. And I'd have to Google that to find out when ChatGPT came out. But that's when the margins started expanding. That's when interest started happening. He said these companies, like the Microsofts, the Amazons, the Googles, they don't so much buy AI companies for the revenues. It's just to make sure the other guy doesn't get that technology, and to make sure that they protect their own turf. It's interesting. He said developers currently use over 30 different software languages, and they're all gigantic. And that makes sense. And I don't know what that is. He said software is the biggest industry on the planet. And now AI is going to run all of that software. It all has to be replaced. It's gigantic and it's going to grow. Well, anyway, let me get back to your questions, see if I answered them, got them. So anyway, is that TELUS deal going to be expandable to other data centers? And that is in fact what's going to happen eventually. The tools will be used worldwide. And I asked him, can somebody come in and recreate this? What's the barrier to entry? And he said, all of this was a heavy lift to create. And it's not going to be easy for someone to do it. But there'll be other things, just like there's Mercedes and BMWs and Volkswagens and Fiats. There'll always be something. Anyway, what is the profitability of each tool? We didn't really get to that because this revenue sharing model is just huge. It's just huge. Does Railtown wish to be the architecture platform elsewhere at other data centers? See, I didn't ask that. I don't even know what an architecture platform is. But yes, they will go global. He broke down rail engine versus conductor versus rail tracks. And rail engine took 2 years or over 2 years. I wrote down 2 years to create. And it's for anything that needs real-time analytics, basically, which is huge. Be like he said, in my case, if I had to figure out, I set up a trading engine and I had to figure out how many companies Jeff Easton is going to screw. No, I made that up. He said, some trading play. That's designed for real time when you need updated information in seconds or fractions of a second. Rail tracks is much more like looking something up in the library. It gives you a lot of information, but it can't give you that split second update. And then conductor is literally what it sounds like. It's the example he gave is if you let your kid play in the living room or the garage, you hope they're going to make the various decisions that keep them safe, but you're going to observe it. And that's what conductor is. They have a huge advantage to the cost of electricity by TELUS, and just in Canada in general. He made the Uniserv deal sound fantastic. That Uniserv deal is an example of how companies want to keep their own clients. And he's able to work with them so that Uniserv can provide to Uniserv's clients a product that's equal to, is better than current data centers, or when TELUS gets involved. Uniserv has its own data centers. There's over 2,000 customers there. He went through how the TELUS deal kind of works, but I want to reread that before I talk about it. I don't think he gave me anything secret, but I just want to be careful. I guess I can tell you it's we got 6 minutes. Railtown is slightly up on the day, 27.37 to 28.09. 62,000 shares for sale. Now 12,000. Now 53,500. It's all corrupt. 350,000 shares. He said it's hard to get a true valuation in the junior markets. I said, you can say that again. I didn't realize it, but he, and even Marwan, but he started writing code when the personal computer started. And he's been involved all along from then. He went through some of his other history. He and the founders of Railtown built 6 companies. 5 of those 6 had a merger, an M&A exit. Um, and the sixth one, they had an idea for Dropbox that they built out, but they were too early. Nobody really used phones like they use them now or iPads, and they were just too early. Everything's about timing, timing. Um, but what one of his merger and acquisition companies was they got bought out. Whatever software he built, whatever it was that he was proud of, and I think this is the one that Microsoft bought, but I could be wrong. But whatever he was proud of, they weren't even interested in. They said, "How'd you do this part of your software over here?" And he said, "Really? That's what?" And he was kind of embarrassed. But the key thing to take away for us is they built the Railtown tools so they're able to scale. You can go from one customer to 1 million customers. Well, let's say from 100 or 1,000 customers to 1 million customers without any added cost necessary. Everything is built to scale, which is huge. It's a huge thing. They spent 6 months writing their white papers before they started their company. I don't think it's a secret, but they went to Microsoft. But part of this, I would rather he talked about, but they loved the idea, and Microsoft was an early supporter of their work. I didn't know this, but do you know? You guys probably do know. Microsoft is the #1 company in the world who provides tools for software developers. I didn't know that. I told him I thought Microsoft is the company who's going to buy them out. So he told me that example I gave of the hyperscalers on the bottom and then the large language models that have all the information. But how our brain works is with these neural connections, and it's like we have consciousness. Well, that's the point of agents. The agents are an attempt to create consciousness. I don't know what else I wrote down. Agent development kits, ADKs, those are frameworks. That's what a framework is. And TELUS is the hyperscaler. TELUS intends to grow its AI business. But what TELUS needs is large language models. TELUS is down here. They need the large language models and they need the frameworks. This is where Railtown comes in. And the companies up here that do frameworks, there's many of them, but he used LangChain and Google. But he said TELUS has chosen Railtown. Why? The biggest thing is Railtown is Canadian. TELUS is Canadian. And AIP is Canadian. Canada's as big as California. And it's all about being sovereign. Scary thought. As big as California. President Trump makes an announcement. What else? What else? What else? What else? I got a sense of timing, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure I can talk about that. It's not, I don't think it's a secret, but I just want to be careful because I just don't want to make a mistake. But he did say that tell us whatever they run through that data center, it's conductor, which is just huge. It's just huge, 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 huge. I don't think it's a secret. I think anybody with arithmetic could do it. But he talked a little bit about the 100 million, which Dr. Tom Core also, gave in that interview. They're going to move it over. I guess we don't know the exact timing. And I didn't press him on that. And even if he had told me, I don't think I'd tell you that. But the point he made is we'll get credit for that revenue, our percentage of that revenue, in a multiple in the market very quickly. And it'll pay for that acquisition as soon as awareness comes out. And I guess that's the key thing, is it is so clear this story is huge. And he just spent 2 hours talking to me. He had another person to talk to. This is the end of the year, but it's going to start coming out. And as people understand how big Railtown is, you're not going to be at 28 cents. You're not going to be at 28 cents. One in fairness, he didn't make fun of my projections, but I said, I thought, to me, Microsoft is such an obvious buyer. And of course, others would come in. But I said, I thought, they could spend, tens of billions and barely in stock and barely notice it. I'm not sure that, and I have to think about it, I'm not sure that it's not so much what he does, but Microsoft may buy, if it's Microsoft, it could be somebody else, but they may buy the company well before it has all that ramp up. And he gave the example of one of the companies that he built and sold to Microsoft. It was early in the growth period, but they got Microsoft stock at 25 bucks a share. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is some of those lofty numbers I've given, it might come both as a jump up in the value of your position by being acquired, but then that acquiring company, whoever it is, you might get it in that stock, holding that stock. But, he didn't tell me Microsoft would buy him or anything. It could be any of those big companies. Anybody that wants to protect their market In fact, TELUS would fit into that category because they want to protect Canada from Microsoft. Microsoft is feeling pressure up in Canada from TELUS's agenda. Getting old isn't for sissies. All right, so the stock closed at let's look at Finger. Finger closed down 4 cents at 145. I'm doing that on purpose because then I can go back to Railtown and get the closing price. Otherwise, I couldn't see the closing price. Railtown closed at 0.2774, slightly green, up 0.0044. Don't let it fool you. They'll try to sell it off tomorrow. A lot of volume, 350,000 shares. And the last share, the trade was 500 shares. 500 shares. So $150, $160 worth of stock prices the whole thing. And the volume, 350. The volume in Canada, 46,000. So I did get him to agree to give an interview for you guys, but he said there needs to be some more information coming out first before he can talk. So that's one of the that's just one of the reasons why the story isn't out there, and people are frustrated. I get it. People are upset. End of the year, tax losses, uh, bad trade. Well, yes, if your deadline's the end of the year, or if you're just disgusted that it's been a year, well, it feels good to take action. But he made it clear to me he can't talk until there's more disclosure. Once that happens, he'll come talk to all of us. So that gives us a window to add to our positions or to become new buyers, certainly to hold, and definitely to not sell. This is a bad time to sell. This is it's just a bad price and a bad timing. All right, let's my ankle is killing me, so I'm sorry to be a little bit distracted. You're in a great situation. He confirmed that he didn't tell me what the revenue split was, but he confirmed it's essentially 100% cash flow. Guys and girls, you're in an incredible. I forgot to ask him if he was going to distribute any of it, but it really sounds like there's a potential anyway that they're going to get unsolicited buyout offers before this goes on too much. I do think I just processing some of it, I do think the unfortunately, the best way to look at this is um, second quarter of next year. For the magnitude of what's coming, the clarity, the the momentum. But that doesn't mean the stock's not going to go up in January. Don't get me wrong. And January is just a week away. But if I wish I had known this uh, in the summer, but it looks like if I had to call it, um, it's going to be all about the second quarter, our second quarter, which would be their third quarter. Let me just add that up. Yeah, that's right. That'd be their third quarter. So if you own Railtown and can look at it as a, let's say, June, July type thing, I know that's horrible. That's a year and a half from when some people bought it. I think that's when you're just going to have fantastic reward for holding it. Now, that doesn't mean, for example, buying it here in December, I think it could triple or quadruple by the end of January. You might get 5x by the end of January or the first week in February. So it's not doom and gloom at all. It's just that the huge ramp ups that some people were looking for, and even myself, in terms of what could happen if this or that, I would. I'll have to think of what my targets are, but I would say second quarter is what you have to waddle through, and that's not much further than what I said last week. And I think I even made a chart to that effect. Maybe I can go over that with you. I made a calendar to that effect. All right, let's go. Hey Jeff, how are you? Hey Pat. Hey Marty Party. Red Pepper Ronnie. Hi William. Just a thought. Next time someone says they haven't been following their stocks for a bit, just tell them they missed the squeeze. All right, I like that. And there's Hang On, Snoopy, Hang On. Merry Christmas, everyone. I like that. JJ Jackson. Uh, Hi, William. Appreciate all the time you take to educate us. Um, Hello again. Hello. Just call to say hello. I think about you every night. Athletics to acquire Jeff McNeil. Hey, Steve. Yeah, I just spent 2 hours with Corey, and he was great. He was absolutely great. He's a little late, gave me full attention, and that guy, not only has he built something, he's I didn't ask him, but I bet he plays chess. He's always thinking ahead. Um, Hey, Donna, good afternoon. I was watching your video meeting. I just had it. It was great. It was great. Justin Babish, what is your feeling after the call? Are you even more confident and bullish? Do you feel like RT is cutting edge? Do you feel like RT is building something others don't have? Yes, I was very confident afterward. I have to process it. I didn't, we didn't get through his entire presentation. Um, the only thing two things I'm a little hesitant on. I think we have to reset our time frame to the second quarter. That doesn't mean there won't be enormous multiples made, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6x on the stock in the meantime. But I do think for people, particularly because I had been saying since June that the timing was, to pick a word, urgent. Um, I think it's best to sort of plan on a 6-month time frame at a minimum. Um, However, that doesn't mean you can buy it in 5 months at 30 cents. I think it's going to uh, have a steady climb, and that could be 90 days, 60 days from now. But anyway, that's that one little shift in timing. I don't find it negative, but I'm not as uh, in some ways that sense of immediacy is shifted a little bit. I don't think that's a negative. The other thing is, I think there's a possibility, but I'm not predicting this, that if a Microsoft or an Amazon or a NVIDIA came in with a deal uh, early on in this process, because I asked him I said, this is huge. How long is it going to take these people to figure it out? He said, they already have it figured out. They'll figure it out right away. And that's when he explained to me that they, like a Microsoft, has a huge commitment in Canada, huge commitment in Canada, um, just to protect themselves from TELUS. They may come and uh, take over, try to take over Railtown. Alternatively, TELUS, he didn't say this, I'm saying it. In a way, TELUS is staking its future on this sovereign Canada story, and they could be, as we've discussed before, they could come in and make an offer to buy the company. My point being, in a lot of the examples I've given of buyouts, I've assumed that the revenue will ramp up and the multiples will come in and the buyouts will be at these higher numbers. It's possible the buyout could happen earlier in the revenue growth rate. And so to get the higher percentage returns, one would have to hold on to the new stock, the company that bought Railtown. Um, but it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear that um, we're in a very exciting stock, and the reason it would be bought sooner than I thought, or at a lower valuation, is because companies will come and make a buyout offer. So he's going to share all those with shareholders as they come. I don't know what my knee, my ankle, everything's breaking out. I don't know what's going on. It's like I walked through a poison ivy patch or something. But no, I'm extremely bullish, Justin. Extremely bullish on Railtown. Subject to the couple of little slight caveats I just gave, I'm much more confident now. The delay, they didn't go backwards in time. The delay did not hold them up. They're almost neutral to who uses them. So for the time being, I think this is the term he used, they can get everybody pregnant. I think that's what he said, which is great. It creates more potential buyers. But he pointed out that these hyperscalers, these what, I don't know, the Mag 7, the FANGs, these big companies in this space, they need these frameworks that Railtown has. Now, LangChain has something. We didn't go through it because I'm not a developer, but they have kind of one out of the 5 things Railtown has, kind of one and a half, but they can improve on that. For example, LangChain works with Amazon, but it's not exclusive, and Amazon could still want to come in and take over Railtown. A lot of it's getting the story out. He described how, which that's what I've tried to describe to you. He described how the private equity groups, they create their own value chain as they go up. And he even told in presentations the same thing I've suggested to you. He asked the question, well, when have you been able to buy an AI company? Because you're not able to buy LangChain. And it's a good point. But Justin, yes, it's a lot to process. I'll probably be more excited tomorrow after I review my notes, sleep on it. But he said, look, everybody needs to own AI, this next generation of AI. I'll use my own words. It's like all that software that's been written, all that code is going to be replaced by AI agents. I'm not sure that's exactly true, but everything has to be redone. And it's going to create a lot of wealth. So it's really exciting. It looks like TELUS is the largest internet provider. I didn't Google that. Who is the largest internet provider in Canada? Rogers Communications, especially after acquiring Shaw, is considered the largest internet provider in Canada. by market share and network size, um, leading in reliability and overall experience, while Bell Canada dominates in the pure fiber internet, and TELUS is a major player, particularly in the West. And it's got an expanding fiber network. Well, it was my impression that TELUS, and maybe I misunderstood what he said, that TELUS was the largest uh, internet provider. Maybe what he means is to companies. But anyway, it's in the top three. It's pretty big. Um, and the key is, Justin, everybody's going to want to switch to the TELUS Sovereign AI factory, the NVIDIA based factory. That's the prize. They're going to want to move there. And to get there, guess what? It's Railtown. It's Railtown. It's big. He brought up that TELUS expects its revenue from AI to grow to $2 billion, and that's going to be on that. It's going to be on those two data centers. So yeah, it's not only am I more confident, I'm bullish. Is it cutting edge? Yes, Railtown is cutting edge. That doesn't mean there aren't other people doing similar things. I mean, you can go buy a Jaguar or go buy an Aston Martin. But yes, I think Railtown is cutting edge. There's still, he corrected me on one thing. You could interpret LangChain as first to market in one sense, on one product, because Railtown had not, they weren't ready because they hadn't finished their negotiation, not about AIP, but about TELUS. And so you could argue that they got the story out first, but Railtown has a complete package, whereas LangChain really doesn't yet. Doesn't mean they don't have customers. But LangChain's all about, once the Wall Street private equity guys get started, they give it this valuation. And they've raised 169 million so far, and they've basically given it a valuation of 10 times the amount of money they raised. But they can walk it up, that value creation. They create the metrics and the values and do the funding to get it up to a price, and then they stuff it to Microsoft or Amazon or somebody. But that's not, when you're on the over-the-counter markets, nobody's doing that. But it doesn't mean that Railtown doesn't have that potential value. ChatGPT launched essentially at the end of 22. So I don't know when it caught fire. Maybe it was 23. I don't know. I don't know when everybody talked about it. Was it 23 or 24? But Railtown started 6 years ago, so it dovetails with what he said. Brandon Neely, if it takes 2 years to get these data centers up and running, does that mean that it could be that long for us to really boom? Well, I don't know which data centers you're talking about, but Railtown's data centers are already built. The two, not Railtown's, Talus's, the two, they're already built. And the one is uh, uh, likely ready to go. I guess that's something TELUS will update everyone on. But that was built and they started running it through its paces in June. I've shown you the articles. I think it was June. So, no, we don't have to wait 2 years at all. In fact, I would say the longest you're going to have to wait is possibly until May / beginning of June. But I doubt it. I think you're going to start hearing information on revenues and revenue projections and revenue growth rates as early as February. It could be sooner. I'm just trying to be a little bit um, a little bit less hurry. But I think you'll start seeing revenues projected and possibly earned starting February. So no, I don't think you have to wait. And I think once revenues of any size come in, they're going to compare very favorably to zero. And if they start ramping up in reality, that's really going to compare favorably to zero last year. And then smarter than all of us, than me anyway, not you, smarter people, more knowledgeable in the field, are going to be able to extrapolate those revenues. And so, no, we're not waiting 2 years. No. Not for that reason, anyway. No, I think it could be February. It could be January, but I think it could be February. Did he have a comment on our collective share position? Yeah, he wanted to know how did I know for sure? I said, well, it's a honor system. Some people email me, but I said I don't write it all down, and some people don't tell me what they have, so it's probably a reasonably accurate number. There might be a little overlap with what somebody else says, but he was really impressed with it. I said to him I didn't think our buying changed the stock price at all because I think the price that matters is Canada, and down here it's all this high frequency computerized selling, and they just print extra shares. And he actually agreed with that. He said, "I think you're right about that kind of thing." So, yeah, he was pretty amazed how many shares we have. Brandon Neely, did they recognize the fact that I have the influence to get a couple hundred people to buy Railtown? Well, it's closer to 17 million shares. I don't know if I wrote it down. I don't know if I wrote it down. Let me see. Um, God, I feel like I'm breaking out. It's like I'm wearing wool. I get allergic to wool, and sometimes I don't know what's going on. He said that Canada's a world leader, a world power. I said, don't worry about it. We're going to make you our 51st state. He laughed. He didn't. He didn't. That's where we were as of this morning. 16,872,000 shares. I didn't add what people told me yet today. 16,872,000. And I think you're right. We're well over 200 people. I don't think we're not at 250. So, but yeah, he was very appreciative and respectful, but I felt that way toward him. So, Justin, I don't want a premature buyout. I want greater valuation. I hope they don't entertain lowball bids. Yeah, it wasn't the time to press home my thoughts on that either. But I think, luckily, Justin, it's not going to matter what he thinks or I think. Um, what could happen is, and you want a CEO who's willing to sell. I've dealt with CEOs who hold on and hold on and hold on, and they end up with nothing. They can have the greatest idea, the greatest team, and build a fantastic company, but they want to get a higher price, or they have one more goal to get to, and then they get nothing because the market runs away from them. And so you do want a CEO that's willing to sell, but you're right. You don't want a low price. But I got the impression, Justin, that if you know, he didn't say this, but I got the impression that if the offer came in at, I don't know, uh, $2 or $3 a share, and it was a legitimate offer, he'd put it out to shareholders. And then it's incumbent on a shareholder vote. I told him I thought that, I said, I think that valuation is ridiculously low. But he said, look, it depends on what the deal is. If it's a great company that gives you stock, well, you keep the stock and you get your growth there. That's true enough. That's true enough. But I think, Justin, what will happen is as soon as there's an offer, um, I suppose there could be a I don't know what to call it, a lockout period for other bids, so that if let's say Amazon came in and offered $3 a share, uh, he may have to give them exclusivity for 30 days or 45 days to get a shareholder vote. I would hope that shareholders, if that's the case, would reject it. But if it's not, if that kind of exclusivity is not agreed to, which I don't know why it would be, as soon as Amazon came in at $3, Microsoft has the most to lose in Canada because they have huge investments in Canada. Um, I'd figure they come in at $5 and others. So I think I don't think it's going to be a question of the company accepting a low buyout. Um, I think the price, there'll be more than one bidder. But I did get the sense that, I don't know, Justin. It's just how I'm feeling right now. I may wake up in the morning and remember what he said, but if it takes, let's say, January, February to get going with the knowledge and information and revenue projections and research, that does mean that it could take until uh, May 15th for revenue announcements, earnings announcements, so that everybody can hear it. And I think it's going to be great. But my point is, it gives, if somebody, let's say at Microsoft or Amazon or NVIDIA, wanted to put in a buyout offer, it gives them, I don't know, 6 weeks, 8 weeks to go in at a low price. We didn't talk about that very much. And I'm sure that he would not sign an exclusivity at a low price. If someone wants to buy him, he'll put it out to shareholders. He said that. But I doubt he'll give someone an exclusive period of time. That doesn't make any sense. He wants to get the highest price. But Justin, I do think that maybe I have to play with the numbers, but they're going to have great revenues. It's a question of what multiple goes on it. And it's a question of, will the company still be Railtown as it gets to those revenues? And there's a lot of moving parts there, Phillies signed Zach Pop to a major league deal. Nationals signed Foster Griffin. Hey, the Nationals step up. Left-hander Foster Griffin, 1 year, $5.5 million contract. I think that's old news. RT could just say no, Justin says, if a takeover isn't for greater value than what RT could. Yes, that's right. And I think it's just, Justin, it's an art, not a science. If somebody comes in and offers a buyout based on revenues that are low, even though they know and they project much higher revenues, they get a lower price. There's no perfect way to go through this, but he's not going to intentionally sell the company soon or intentionally try to get a low price. He's not going to do that. Brandon Neely, what is Railtown's role in the data centers being built? Google owns 14% of Wolf. Who is at the front of building data centers? Wolf is? Well, Google is Google almost provides a one-stop shop data. Google has all three pieces here, and it's almost a one-stop shop. But he said developers like to pick and choose. But the data centers that TELUS has already built, 2 of them they've already built. They're going to build 2 more. What's the role of Railtown? Railtown is this ADK, Agenic Data Kit, the orchestration framework. The user is an AI company or a developer. The user comes to sign up with TELUS. They said, oh, I love it. I want to be on that new NVIDIA sovereign AI data center. They come to sign up with TELUS, but they go through Railtown. That's their choice. It's the only choice. And on the large language models, he gave 3 names, but I think, I don't know this for a fact. He said there's 3 companies, OpenAI, Anthropic, and Cohere. But he said there's others too. But he did, the whole point of the large language models, you've got all the data, I guess, downloaded. The large language model makes all the connectivity. It's the synapses. But he did point out that Cohere is Canadian. I'd have to look up OpenAI and Anthropic. I don't know. That's homework. But if Cohere is Canadian, that would be a logical choice to have sovereign Canadian sovereignty. But I don't know that for a fact. That's something that would have to be further disclosed. But the key thing, Brandon, right here, you're going to have users, companies, software developers. They're going to create agentic agents. They're going to sign up for TELUS, state of the art. But by signing up for TELUS, they're going to use Conductor and whoever this is. Ward Richardson, ChatGPT is a $500 billion private company looking to go public in 2026. That's right. That's right. The 500 billion, is that enough? I told him I thought Microsoft would buy Railtown for 40 billion. He didn't laugh at me, but I would say that my target is premature. I would put it that way. Ward Richardson, William, the AI industry is growing at an alarming rate. That is what AI is designed to do. Is it a virus? What came across to me, Ward, is, I think I already said it, but if you imagine all the software out there, it all has to be replaced or updated. You got to buy all that software and flip it. You got to renovate it and flip it. It's big, trillions of dollars. I think what's going to go on with Railtown is, as the story gets told, you're not going to need me to translate it anymore. There'll be research, there'll be news stories, there'll be buying campaigns. And of course, he didn't give me any indication of timing of news releases or anything. He can't do that. He didn't even tell me what news would be coming. Donna, Railtown has been added to the Canadian Stock Exchange 25 index as of Friday. That's great news. Justin Babish. TELUS is bringing in AI customers from around the world. Doesn't matter about internet provider in Canada. TELUS is global. That's true too. And anybody they bring in to these two data centers, it's going through Railtown. That's my interpretation, which is huge. And Justin, I will vote yes anywhere above $30 a share. Well, let me give you an example. What if Microsoft offered? I'm using that's my favorite buyer. What if they offered $1.50 in cash and $5 a share in Microsoft stock? I wouldn't like it, but I bet a lot of people would. Hopefully, Justin, what'll happen is the visibility of revenue growth and the story and success will take on a life of its own, that the idea of paying less than $30 won't even occur to anybody. $30 would be about is that about 12 billion, 13 billion? I mean, he did point out to me that IBM just bought can't remember. They just bought somebody for 11 billion. So he did point that out. Justin Babish, $3 is less than 1 billion. No way. I agree. We weren't negotiating the price. I tried to get him to tell me what price he'd sell the company for, but he wasn't biting on that, and he shouldn't bite on that. Let's just let that play out. $2 billion valuation is fair. Not even asking too much. Well, 2 billion would give you, 2.5 billion would give you $10 a share. To me, that's low. But what if Microsoft came and gave $10 a share in stock? What if TELUS offered $10 a share in stock? What if Oracle offered $10 a share in stock? What if Intel offered $10 a share in stock? One might argue that Microsoft is overvalued, but Microsoft owns the developer tools market. Yeah, let me process it, Justin. I don't think he was telling me the stock's for sale at $3, but at the same time, he wasn't buying my $40 billion valuation, which, to be fair, is way up there. That's $180 a share. He must have thought I had lost my mind. But he did really emphasize that he thought people should own Railtown. But if they didn't, they should own AI. They should make sure they own AI. It's going to transform uh, uh, wealth and our living the way the market for Apple and Microsoft happened, or Amazon, or Oracle, these are true giants that all came out of this uh, revolution that all started with the personal computer, went to internet, and now it's going to be AI for everyone. All right, I don't see any more questions. I was extremely excited by the call. I think it's going to be great news, great trading in 2026. Hopefully, it'll give Donna time to buy in the first week of January. But it was great. It was a real confidence builder. They didn't lose a step at all. And the acquisition of Railtown, by Railtown of AI Partners Network, it's going to pay for itself in a heartbeat. So it was well worth the wait. Justin says, other than the TELUS relationship, Railtown should be bringing revenue from DevOps tools anyway related to Microsoft. Well, very, very smart. There's one thing, GitHub, but there's another one too. Maybe it's called Azure DevOps. Anyway, there's two programs for developers at Microsoft that Railtown's already part of, and they have been for years. So you're right. But I think it's pretty. As I asked him the question, he said, "We're always going to stay with the developers. We're always going to be focused on the developer market." But it's clear to me, Justin, they're focused on he never used that word. I call it hosting. He called it electricity. But they're going to focus on that. That's where their bread is buttered. And it's huge. It's giant. It really is giant. All right. I think I might. It's 5 o'clock. I just want to take a break, and I'll come on tomorrow. But it was a great, great call. Um, just awesome. I think you own a fantastic stock. I can't imagine a better stock to own in the AI space than Railtown. And he pointed out Canada is huge. Canada is going to be huge. But they'll also go out in the world too. So anyway, I just run out of energy here, so I'm going to sign off. I wish everybody Merry Christmas, peace in the world, and peace at your homes, and peace in general.